So this might be the first Georgian movie I've ever seen, and funnily enough, well, I noticed it had a lot of Swedish funding. Why the Swedes would fund a Georgian movie, I don't know. But there you have it, interesting tidbit of the day, I guess. That doesn't really have much to do with the movie itself. But I also have to admit that Georgia is one of those countries I definitely knew existed. I even knew roughly in what part of the world it was, but I couldn't have pointed it out on a map. And I knew basically nothing about it at all. I didn't actually know anything about the culture or the people. So that was one aspect that intrigued me about this, and probably why I decided to watch yet another movie about dancing. Because as I've said before, I don't care about dancing at all, and yet here I am again, watching a movie about a young man who is part of a dance troupe. And this particular troupe is focused on traditional Georgian folk dance. And this young man is determined to show his worth and try to get into the main group that gets to travel the world. But of course he also has a lot of personal issues to deal with, as well as family issues. Because he lives with his brother, his mother and his grandmother. And they're struggling to get by financially, so he also has to try to keep them afloat. So the movie here actually moves in a few different directions and includes a bit of a love story as well. But at the center of it all is the dancing. It's kind of the passion that drives it all. That's the motivator that keeps things moving, along with the love story, I guess. The rest of it is more or less context for the situation as a whole, I would say. But it gives you a good idea of what it might be like living in a society like that. One that is fairly conservative and has a lot of traditional values and, well, traditions they value. But at the same time, you do get a sense that it's a society in flux. One that is slowly changing and moving forward, but at a snail's pace. However, still moving, but perhaps not quite fast enough for everyone's liking. And the society as a whole seems to be kinda trapped between holding on to old traditions and thinking, but at the same time embracing the modern world and more liberal values, I guess. And I thought that brought with it a very interesting dynamic to the whole story. But I also have to say that the way this goes about telling the story was also impressive, because it rarely says things out loud, it expresses them in different ways instead. And I very much liked that about the filmmaking here, it was very effective. It forced you to get inside the characters' heads and to step into their shoes, and to try to see the world from their perspective instead of just having them tell you what they think and how they see things. Which I liked a lot, and it's part of the reason I ended up liking this as much as I did. Another reason is probably the performances, because I thought all of them were really good. Now when it comes to the characters themselves, the main character's arc was admittedly kinda... well, I would say it was predictable, and I was hoping the movie would sorta avoid certain stereotypes and tropes, but it didn't. Not that it ruined the movie or anything, but it could have been a little bit more creative. With that being said, the arc of the brother I actually found to be probably the most interesting one. Probably because there was most growth and change there, I guess. While it still felt true to the character and it felt pretty natural, all things considered. Which I guess brings me to the finale, because for some reason I loved it. The last scene was great and even managed to get to me emotionally. Which I did not expect, but it was a pleasant and welcome surprise. And overall, I just have to say that I liked this movie a fair bit and didn't really have a lot of issues with it. But does that mean I would recommend it? Sure, why not? It's a pretty good drama/love story. So, you know, if it sounds interesting, maybe give it a look, or maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.